Hsinchu Science Park, Taiwan, April 3, 2024, 7:58 a.m. A 7.4 magnitude earthquake hits the island. Inside TSMC's fabs, machines worth hundreds of millions of dollars automatically halt. Wafers carrying the future of iPhones, AI models, and data centers are rushed and secured. Engineers move through clean rooms, inspecting the factories that produce the world's most advanced chips. This is the heart of silicon, a factory network that pumps computing power through the global economy. But the more perfectly this heart beats, the more dangerous one question becomes. How did so much of the digital future end up inside one earthquake-prone island? Welcome back to the Machine Notebook. In this episode, we trace TSMC's rise on Taiwan into the fragile heartbeat of the global digital economy. The first pulse began in 1987. TSMC was created inside Taiwan's state-backed technology apparatus, with Morris Chang returning after a long career at Texas Instruments, where he had seen the brutal economics of semiconductor manufacturing from the inside. The company leased its first production line from the Industrial Technology Research Institute, drew on Philips as an early technology and equity partner, and used Taiwan's industrial policy to do something almost heretical: build a chip company that would not sell chips of its own. The bargain was simple enough to draw on a napkin. TSMC would not design its own processors, build a branded device, or compete with its own customers in merchant silicon. It would concentrate on making other companies' designs at high yields and scale. That made the fab a neutral heart. Apple, Nvidia, AMD, Qualcomm, Broadcom, and hundreds of smaller chip designers could send ideas into Taiwan and receive working silicon back. For a young fabless company, that changed the capital equation. Instead of raising money for furnaces, clean rooms, lithography tools, and process engineers, it could buy manufacturing access by the wafer. For Taiwan, it turned a small domestic market into an export engine. The founding principle was trust. Customers would trust the manufacturer only if the manufacturer never became a rival. Advanced semiconductor manufacturing was becoming too capital-heavy and too technically complex for every ambitious designer to own a fab. So TSMC became the shared muscle behind many separate brains. By the end of the decade, its foundry model had become the template for the fabless ecosystem. A chip factory is not a box where drawings go in and chips fall out. It is a body with arteries. Designers send blueprints. Toolmakers deliver machines that sculpt matter at almost unimaginable scale. Chemical suppliers feed the system with purified materials. Engineers turn each design into stacked layers of silicon, one heartbeat at a time. TSMC could spend ahead of demand on leading-edge tools and process development, then monetize those investments across many customers rather than one captive product line. That is why the heart grew stronger as more arteries connected to it. This was never one lonely factory on a map. By the mid-2020s, TSMC served more than 500 customers and made over 12,000 different products, shipping millions of wafers a year. The heart had grown vast, and the whole industry leaned on its beat. Most of that muscle still lived in Taiwan, in a cluster of giant fabrication plants. But the network had begun to spread: smaller fabs in Nanjing, new capacity rising in Arizona and Japan, and a specialty plant taking shape in Dresden. The factory network became a living industrial organism of suppliers, technicians, recipes, habits, and trust, and every year, more of the world's computing blood flowed through it. Then, the heartbeat accelerated. Generation after generation, the circuits grew finer. From the 7-nanometer node to the 5-nanometer node in just a few years. Each one printed with the strange ultraviolet light only a handful of machines on Earth could wield. By the early 2020s came the 3-nanometer generation, and then the 2-nanometer node, each one packing more transistors into the same sliver of silicon. Every new step was a faster heartbeat inside the same chest. More transistors fit into the same tiny square. More computing power left the island in every shipment of wafers. By the mid-2020s, the most advanced nodes, 7 nanometers and smaller, made up nearly 3/4 of TSMC's wafer revenue. And those chips flowed everywhere. The largest share now went to high-performance computing, the processors behind AI and the cloud, then to the smartphones in billions of pockets, and the cars and devices filling the modern world. Most of that demand traced back to American companies. So an iPhone launch, an AI training cluster, and a cloud data center can all be imagined as organs waiting for the same pulse. In the fourth quarter of 2025, TrendForce estimated TSMC held 70.4% of the global foundry market. Counterpoint put TSMC's share of the pure-play foundry segment at 73% in the same quarter. Here is the paradox of the perfect heart. The more efficient it becomes, the more frightening its silence would be. TSMC warns that earthquakes, power, water, cyber attacks, export controls, and geopolitical tension can disrupt the system. Drought is not an abstract risk when a fab needs water like blood plasma. TSMC says government water rationing in response to droughts could materially affect operations and expansion plans. Power is not background scenery when machines must hold a rhythm measured in microscopic steps. TSMC warns that electricity outages or increases in power prices can harm both throughput and profitability. Geopolitics is not a newspaper headline when a wafer can become evidence in an export control investigation. In 2024, TSMC notified US and Taiwanese authorities that one type of chip it had manufactured for a customer might have been diverted to a restricted entity or incorporated into a restricted entity's product. In 2024, TSMC even had to warn Washington that one of its chips might have slipped to a restricted buyer, a reminder that a single wafer could become evidence in a geopolitical fight. And still, the heart kept growing, its yearly revenue now well past $100 billion. To keep that heart beating, TSMC poured tens of billions of dollars every year into new machines and new fabs, one of the largest building campaigns in industrial history. The more the world depended on it, the harder and the more expensively it had to beat. The body wanted more blood, and the heart had to beat harder. So the world began trying to build artificial hearts. In Arizona, TSMC chose a site in North Phoenix, near a new industrial corridor designed around water, power, roads, and supplier access. The first line was built for N4 class production, with a later line planned around N3 technology, nodes used in the kind of processors that sit at the center of phones, data centers, and AI servers. In Japan, the Kumamoto project became JASM, backed not only by TSMC but by Sony Semiconductor Solutions, Denso, and later Toyota, a coalition that shows exactly who is trying to secure capacity: image sensors, automotive electronics, and the machinery of modern industry. In Germany, the Dresden project became ESMC, with Bosch, Infineon, and NXP each taking stakes beside TSMC, aimed at automotive and industrial chips rather than the most advanced smartphone processors. But a fab is not just concrete, steel, and a ribbon-cutting photograph. It is a trained reflex spread across suppliers, operators, engineers, utilities, process recipes, tool maintenance, chemical purity, and years of trust. The machines come from ASML, Applied Materials, Lam Research, Tokyo Electron, KLA, and others. The output depends on gases, photoresist, ultra-pure water, spare parts, and a labor force that knows what a microscopic deviation costs. TSMC has been clear in its operating pattern. The newest technologies still debut in Taiwan first. Arizona, Kumamoto, and Dresden add resilience, but they do not instantly reproduce the dense industrial nervous system around Hsinchu, Taichung, Tainan, and Kaohsiung. So we return to the shaking island, the factories inspect, repair, and restart. The internet stays online. AI training runs continue. Millions of people keep scrolling, streaming, and tapping glass without knowing the heart was tested. The final image is not catastrophe, it is dependence. The heart beats, and because it beats, almost nobody notices it is there. But the lesson of TSMC is not that one island can be easily replaced. It is that modern power now lives in tolerances measured in nanometers, in ASML lithography, Tokyo electron tracks, Lam etchers, KLA inspection tools, specialty gases, power substations, water recycling systems, and engineers who know which alarm matters before the dashboard explains it. Arizona, Kumamoto, Dresden. These are not substitutes for Taiwan so much as insurance policies against a world that discovered its heart had a location. And if that heart ever misses a beat, the silence will not stay in Taiwan. It will move through cloud servers, cars, phones, satellites, factories, and the small pieces of glass we touch without thinking.